Hi there, and welcome to another Views from the Valley, your weekly roundup of the news here in the United States, coming to you from the v3.co.uk offices in San Francisco. With me as ever, Sean Nichols. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Ian.
Right, okay. Now, we've had a lot of comments on the comments section about last week's top 10, the top 10 computer games of all time. So we thought we should just lead off with a few explanations. First off, yes, it was computer games, so consoles and arcades were right out, although we may have a surprise for you on that later on this week. I mean, overall, what did you think of the comments? Fair, unfair?
I thought they were fair, honestly. It was actually a whole lot less than I was expecting to get. Whenever we do top 10 lists, we always do kind of run the risk of people who are very specialized in one area or another correcting us, pointing out some things we might have missed or some mistakes that we made. And definitely with gaming, it was definitely something that I knew a lot of people are really, really into it. Mm-hmm. And I figured we were just, no matter what we did, we were just going to get taken to task over this.
Yeah, I mean, there were some quite obvious. I mean, Grim Fandango got some comments. Jet Set Willy, which, as an American, I'm presuming you've never even heard of. No. But yes, it was that ZX Spectrum game, which was very popular. Whether or not it was advanced, well, it's certainly advanced for its time, but it was very difficult to come up with these lists. As I say, we had a list approaching 25 by the time we first started the Winning the Act procedure. And looking through them, I don't know, Command & Conquer possibly should have been on there.
Deus Ex was, I think we mentioned, it was one of the last
well,
I think it was
the last one.
Yeah, I was really, really torn between that one and Escape Velocity. I think the one that nobody really mentioned, but the one I kind of regret, was Marathon from Bungie.
Come on, it was a cheap Doom ripoff.
It was
basically we can't play Doom on a lot of people think
systems. A lot of people think it was a lot better than Doom. Actually.
No, a lot of Mac users think it was a lot better than Doom.
Well, it was the predecessor to Halo.
Well, yeah, but Halo was simply Doom for the console market. I mean, Marathon, come on, it had some very pretty graphics, don't get me wrong, but it was just Doom with a few more extra things.
Well, every first-person shooter at that time was Doom with a few extra things.
Which is why we had Doom.
Doom was just Wolfenstein with a few better things.
Oh, come on. I mean, come on. The leap between Wolfenstein to Doom was so massive. I mean, that's like, I'm trying to think of a suitable analogy. I mean, it's kind of like saying a Ferrari is like a Model T Ford with, just a few extra things. There's no comparison. I'm sorry. It's end of story. But anyway, before this gets bloody, you've been working on the latest Google China spat news. What's going on?
Yesterday Google announced that they were going to basically move their all of their Chinese language properties from servers in China, mainland China, to Hong Kong. This is essentially their way, more or less, pulling out of China. Basically, they said we're not going to censor our searches.
Pulling out of China, but correct me if I'm wrong, Hong Kong is part of China.
We're not going to get into the whole political and cultural subtleties of China and Hong Kong, but needless to say, Hong Kong really is a whole lot more lenient towards these things. And so basically Google said, that's it, we're not going to censor our Chinese language searches anymore. And I don't know if China has already, or if they're just about going to block Google, I believe.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting one. I mean, historically Hong Kong has had more political rights than mainland China. This stems from a deal cut over the 1997 handover from the UK. A shameful piece of history where if you had enough money you could come to the UK with a passport. If you didn't, you were stuck under communist rule. Moving swiftly onwards from a country's shame. I mean, it's going to be tricky because either China cuts down on Hong Kong's internet access, or they allow it, which I just can't see happening. But
well, they can just block it inside China.
Yeah,
China. I mean, that's. I don't know if it's already happened or not. I have to check the.
I mean, they've got about a third of the Chinese market as it stands at the moment. But I was looking through some research today, and they were saying basically the kind of people who are using Google are more technically advanced, have higher net worth. And care more about privacy. So in the long run, this could actually work out for Google. If they can make it aware that they were stepping away and therefore gain these people's loyalty, when things relax in China, who knows?
Yeah, it's possible. Somewhere down the line this could pay dividends for Google, but in the short term, it looks
short
like
to medium term, they're going to take a hit. So, but they've still got research facilities there and that sort of thing. But yeah, well, we'll see how that develops. Of course, one of the real problems that Google had initially with China was hacking, and we've had a great new anti-hacking tool put out today from Danish vulnerability manager Secunia. Basically, it's a application vulnerability scanner which goes through applications from over 2,300 vendors, and this time they've integrated Microsoft as well. So basically, you load this thing on, it scans through your client systems, downloads and installs all the patches, and then checks they've been put in. Now, I mean, we've been covering a lot the shift from hackers targeting operating systems into applications. I mean, this, as far as I can see, is a long-term trend and isn't going to stop anytime soon.
No, especially as people start to do more things with web services. And, the browser really becomes the platform of choice for a lot of people. I mean, it's getting down to the point where the browser is more important or prevalent than the operating system.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're seeing this in smartphones and netbooks, certainly. Netbooks particularly, where, it really is, you can have pretty much you can have a mobile and operating system or totally open source as long as you've got that browser application. But I mean, in terms of your conversations with IT managers, are they keeping up with application patching? Because they're not, as far as I can see.
No, I think it's tough for a lot of managers, because you have, in addition to having all the systems, you have to keep patching everything. You also have to worry about compatibility issues. It seems like every once in a while, every few months, we'll hear about an update that screws up some other application or messes up some system. We just had a big thing with Microsoft, or the security update.
Yes, just a few red faces at Redmond there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of companies either through their own policies or just their inability to patch these systems. Yeah, there are plenty of vulnerable systems out there. Also, a lot of vulnerable user systems out there as well. And so, I think this can be a good thing, but the people that they're really targeting, people they're really going after, probably wouldn't be downloading and using this tool in the first place, unfortunately.
Well, there is that. We'll have to see what kind of take-up is, but certainly it's available for free trial from Secunia's website. And finally, in a sort of fairly unrelated topic, we had the launch of the new Virgin spacecraft, candidly named Enterprise, which was basically taken up by its latest mothership. It didn't actually fire off and go into orbit. That comes later. They're still testing the avionics at the moment. But also the news that in the UK, then a major funding centre has been set up for UK space research. It does seem, particularly we've seen with in the last couple of months, NASA has abandoned its heavy lifting programs, and it seems the only people going into space now are private companies. Is this a part of the American ethos of the private sector always does it better, or does NASA's drop the ball too many times, in your view?
Well, Virgin's British. The funding for it's British. It's kind of a world program, I think, as well. I think part of it is NASA's dropping the fund. I think part of it's just this technology is becoming, cheaper for the private sector to actually be able to afford some of these systems. And I think there's definitely going to be a need for an alternative to NASA because, they are grounding the shuttles for a while. The new systems aren't quite ready yet.
I was going to say, we're going to have to hitch lifts up to the International Space Station with the Russians, which is going to be fun if they start raising their prices. And, of course, China's getting into space in a very big way, and India too. So it looks like we're going to see a very interesting set of developments. Of course, the space race really helped drive an awful lot of the development of the microprocessor industry. When you look at what went through with the Mercury, Gemini and Apollo missions, basically an awful lot of the design work behind that was building smaller and smaller computers with higher and higher run rates so that you could actually do these complex calculations to head out to the moon and back. I don't know, we could be seeing something similar, but we'll have to keep an eye on how it develops. Anyway, you can read more about these and other stories at www.v3.co.uk, and we'll be back next week.